Thank you guys for joining me. I have Alex, Jay, and Melanie here today talking
It's
about
actually,
their
sorry, it's Mallory.
Mallory.
Yeah.
Sorry,
No, you're good.
but we are here to talk about their movie that just came out not that long ago, and this movie was fantastic, guys.
Thank you so much. I'm
Thank
so
you.
glad you liked it.
Yeah, man, means the world, dude.
Loved it. So, what got you guys into writing and acting?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're all just like from a young age really loved films. I think, like, all three of us in some way, like as kids, kind of always like, especially the boys, like dreamt about filmmaking. And, when we all met about 10, 11 years ago, again, our friendship kind of just spawned from all of our loves of filmmaking. And then we started making short films together, and it just like went like together like chocolate and peanut butter. It was just great working with these boys and collaborating, and we just were like, you know what, how do we continue to do this full time? So we all quit our jobs. We started a production company here in Toronto, and then just basically kept saving up money and putting it aside to hopefully one day make a feature film together. And that's kind of where Dream Eater came from.
Yeah, that is awesome. Like I said, this movie, Dream Eater, was definitely something that caught everybody that I have talked to about it. Like they have never heard of it, and as soon as it goes out, they are willing to watch it. Like there's everybody's waiting for the day that they can pre-order it, watch it, or rent it, whatever. I've recommended people to buy it because it's definitely something. Buy this, and you will watch this probably 10 times over. Because I'm going to buy it to watch it 10 times over.
We appreciate that, man.
Yeah,
We
thank you.
Yeah,
really do.
That means the
yeah,
world, brother. Thank you.
yeah. No problem. What made you guys come up with the concept of this movie?
Yeah, the concept, it was interesting. It started off as a straight narrative that was called Asleep, like stylized Asleep. And it was a film that we had been pitching here in Canada for a little while. Like the Canadian film market's very different in terms of getting movies developed. You're going a lot of times for government money, and you got to hit these kind of mandates in terms of like Canadiana, promoting that type of thing. So we just weren't really getting a lot of traction, and obviously we had been pitching like, dozens of ideas to studios, distributors, just trying to get something going. But finally you get, especially after COVID, it was like you hear no enough times, but there are these ideas that you really believe in, and you're like, why don't we just go and do this ourselves? So this movie is Sleep had this core nugget of an idea within it that's centered around the horrors of parasomnia and sleepwalking. And so we basically dusted that off. We took a look at the concept again, and we were like, found footage is something we love, right? Our initial
Mm-hmm.
feature was supposed to be a found footage film, but the studio changed it to a narrative as kind of the thing that happens from time to time.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were like, you know what? We think that this story would be perfect for the found footage format. And that would be a genre we would love to go back to, because that's really where our roots are as filmmakers, is tackling found footage. So, we ideated this kind of like, this concept of like a couple out in the woods while the girlfriend, the cinematographer, is documenting her boyfriend's violent sleepwalking at the
Mm-hmm.
behest of his sleep clinician. And as we started doing more and more research and just started getting more and more into the concept itself, it really started to evolve from the sleep science and then our love of Lovecraft and the fear of the unknown and the fear of your own mind. And really, where we kind of attacked this from the beginning was we wanted to get people where they sleep, where they feel the most comfortable, where they feel the most safe at night in bed next to the person they love. So we started
Mm-hmm.
thinking, like, well, if we start making people question, do they really know who they're sleeping next to at night? That then begs the question, do you really know who you're with in a relationship, especially if that person remains a mystery to themselves? And then so we just started intrinsically kind of weaving these, the horror of parasomnia with the horror of toxic kind of dynamics that relationships can kind of find themselves in when, little by little, little becomes a
Yeah.
lot in the sense of some of these negative kind of dynamics. And then, yeah, we
Mm-hmm.
were off to the races making Dream Eater.
Yeah. I love the fact that it was found footage. There's not a lot of them out there now, the found footage movie style, because like Hell House was found footage all the way up to the last one, and still, even with that being the way it had to go with the last one, um, because of the way it, you couldn't have done the last one found footage. There was just no way. Of how he wrote the last movie, there was no way you could have done found footage. Um, but with you guys, you did this one so well, perfect for this first one of found footage on this style of the movie. I couldn't have had you. I mean, this one was just. I wouldn't have had it any other way. If I was writing this, that would have been the way I did it.
Well,
Yeah.
thanks. Yeah, it's something that we wanted to do. Like our first film, we had pitched a found footage concept that the studio, and when the studio bought it, they changed it to a straight narrative. So we always had this itch that we couldn't quite scratch, and we always just wanted to do another found footage movie. And as we were pitching Asleep as a straight narrative, once we realized that we were going to self fund it ourselves, we had to ask that question as well. Because when you're approaching a studio, you're going for a lot more money. So when we decided we were going to self fund it, it was basically, well, how much money can we actually gather? So the three of us basically said, like, this is what we can pull, and this is what we need to raise, and this is what we need to keep the lights on and pay our rent while we make this movie. And so with that, it was like, okay, well, we have this core nugget of the idea at the center of Asleep, and what's our way that we're going to be able to do that? And it was the exact right thing at that right time for us to be able to go back and revisit found footage, which we're huge fans of. We love the genre, the subgenre. It's fun, it's innovative. People think that it's easy because it's inexpensive, but it's not. It's actually inherently more difficult because you can't just you can't just have the camera exist wherever you want. You can't just break down a scene and shoot it in a way where you're like, well, okay, well, I want to do a wide, medium, close, and then cover both individuals, and then do like a two-shot 50-50 or something. You have to justify why the camera's on every single time. So it inherently has to be written and then shot and then edited all with the same cohesive vision. So like even our script, the first draft was a shooting draft because you have to write the camera angles into the script to justify the story. So then the story and the style are intrinsically motivating each other all the way from the scripting all the way till the end of the edit.
Yeah, that's what I like. I said, I love the found footage portion. It was very. I wouldn't. I would have loved the movie any way that you guys did it. It wouldn't have mattered to me. But the found footage portion is where I loved it the most.
That's awesome.
Thanks.
I couldn't have had it any other way. I was like, I wouldn't have had it any other way.
Yeah, I think too, the story is really about this couple. And I think the found footage aspect adds this like intimacy to it too. Like you're watching this couple up at this cabin, and by having it found footage, like Alex was saying, it just feels like it's intrinsically like woven into the narrative. And, being able to use it found footage, I think again, just lets you like look into this couple then in a way that maybe you're like, oh, should I be watching this? I feel like I'm watching something I shouldn't. And so the found footage nature of that just really like leaned into that for sure.
And on top of it too, by making, Alex had alluded to it with the scripting. It's like the cinematography in a found footage is obviously going to affect the narrative and vice versa. So by making Mallory's character this cinematographer as her occupation, the times that she was filming that wasn't the sleepwalking, that wasn't related to parasomnia, was really kind of a window into her creativity, the way she blows off steam, the way that she kind of gets a catharsis. So in that way, you kind of got a cool kind of sense of the character through a show don't tell kind of moment, which was very, I think, powerful and also lent to the atmosphere of the movie with those cutaways.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and it's intimate too. Like the intimacy of found footage. You look at like cinematographer Roger Deakins. I remember he did an interview where he was talking about how he likes to cover conversations, and he's like, I don't really like over the shoulder shots because it means that you're outside of what they're speaking about. So he goes on a shorter lens, and then he goes inside the conversation so that you feel like you're in between the drama. And so with found footage, especially when you have this intimate story where these two people are existing in the middle of nowhere, the camera being held by one person facing the other, and they're acknowledging that the camera's there. It's almost like the audience is being acknowledged. So they're in on the intimacy even more. And I think that's one of the things that makes found footage that not enough people consider or recognize or appreciate about it is how intimate it truly is.
Yeah.
And to Alex's
And
point with the intimacy, right? It's like it also then creates conflict because if the camera's
mhm.
there, it's not just a God's eye view. Well, now characters are aware that they're being filmed or not aware that they're being filmed, but then might find out about it. So now that starts to further the story in a way that's a lot more kind of organic than it would be in a straight narrative.
Yeah, and you had that feeling.
Yeah.
So
Thank you.
yeah,
Stuff.
and that was I love that feeling of the of that portion of it because you couldn't tell. It wasn't like an obvious thing.
Mm-hmm.
It was there, but it wasn't there. Like that portion of the of what you guys were writing and what you guys were trying to show wasn't like the obvious point of that. If you maybe like not trying to give away anything. That's the hard portion of that is there's no obvious point there. Like you did there was points, yes, but then there wasn't. Like you couldn't tell that he realized what was going on.
Yeah, like it's. I think one of those things too, and it's funny. Jay would always say this in the early stages when we were writing it. We're never going to have a moment where someone like we actually make a point to make fun of this because in the earlier found footage movies post Blair Witch, where everyone was like, "Cool, how do we get in on this style?" Uh, they would have a character just say like, why are you filming this? Because people need to know. We
Yeah.
have to document this. So that, and then you're like, oh, the filmmakers at the time were like, okay, great. Now we've gotten that out of the way. Now we can just do whatever the hell we want. And so early on in the movie, because it is a contentious point between the characters, Alex says like, "Are you going to be doing this the whole time?" And then she goes like, "People have a right to know." So she makes
Mhm.
fun. We wanted to call that out, but not that isn't the justification. That's like an awareness. We are aware that people think this about found footage movies, so we're going to call it out. And then great, now we can be in on the joke, and now people can focus on the story on why is this actually being shot, and the characters talk about it and they get into it. But like you said, we don't try to hammer it too hard
Mhm.
because then again it'll take you out. Like remember, everyone, you're watching a movie. It's just
Mm.
like let it be the natural points where it's going to bring up some conflict with the characters, and then let that drive the story. And that was figured out well. Like the scripting phase is when that was like actually being figured out. So
Well,
by the time we were shooting it, it was cool.
well, it's interesting, like what Alex is saying, right? It's like a straight narrative doesn't go like, guys, this is why it's a movie, and this is why you're watching it. It's
Exactly.
you
Yeah.
just believe you're watching a movie. That's what it is. I'm somehow seeing these events, and I'm watching them get strung together. Whereas sometimes I think there's almost like to what Alex was saying, like this like insecurity that sometimes found footage films can feel like they've got, where they're almost trying to, to Alex's point again, like hit you over the head with this is why we're doing, like, we promise this makes a lot of sense. It's like, tell us the one time. And if it's reasonable enough, if your conceit is believable enough of why we're filming, in this case,
Mhm.
documenting your parasomnia, your episodes of parasomnia for your sleep doctor, well then cool.
Mhm.
We're in, that's it. We're not going to explain it again to you. But then, like Alex said, why can't that be a point of conflict? Not to try to justify to the audience why the movie's being filmed, but trying to justify to each other why a character is choosing to film another at a time that they feel it's not really appropriate.
Yeah. Yep. So how was it to direct and even act in this movie?
Yeah, I mean, like it was tough. Like we wore so many hats in this process in terms of just like everything from like producing to production design to locations to acting to directing. But I mean, once we decided that we were going to wear all these hats, it kind of was just like, okay, let's make sure before we get up to the location, we're as prepared as possible. Because with making movies, right, like every day there's a new challenge. Every day something happens that you now have to think about, like, okay, crap, like how are we going to redo this or how are we going to change what's just happening because of these obstacles. But because we were so prepped going in, really every challenge that presented itself kind of became a new
Mhm.
opportunity for us. And, Jay was behind the camera for the majority of it when we were up there, and Alex and I were in front of the camera. But we like implicitly trust Jay. And Jay knows exactly what we're looking for because it's the same thing that he's looking for too. So
Mhm.
relying on Jay and just, like if we would do something and then we would just kind of see him give us like the double thumbs up behind the camera, we were like, okay, sweet, we know we hit it. And if there was like any kind of just like lull there, we would be like, all right, what was wrong? Like, let's take this back and let's do it again. But I mean, like the three of us, like I had said, we've been working together for over a decade now, that it just, we implicitly trust each other and we know what everybody likes and what the vision is. So that's what makes it easy. Like, definitely there are difficulties when you're doing so many things, but at the end of the day, working with these guys, it makes those hard things easy. And I think the fact that we were so prepared before getting up to the cabin definitely helped with like just the shit that comes with making movies, you know?
Yeah, yeah. So
And
where? Oh, go ahead.
sorry, I was just going to add to that, because in David Mamet's book on directing film, he says that I don't fully agree with this, but I do agree with it to an extent. He says that directing is preparing your shot list, and he's like and everything else is like things that happen on the day. There is some truth to that, and Eli has said this thing in recent interviews with us that we've loved. We've just like, oh, we're stealing that, is fix it and prep. And Mallory, Jay, and myself, especially because we were funding the movie ourselves, spoke about everything, and especially in film where everything goes wrong, as Mallory said. You want to be prepared for everything, and you're never prepared for the thing that actually goes wrong, but you want to be prepared for so many things to go wrong. And so you pre-direct, and especially because, okay, well, we were the two actors, then me, Jay, and Mal could all pre-direct with each other and do blocking we did it in my living room, and we like set up obstacles in the living room that we knew reflected what was actually going to be at the location. And so we got to work those things out. So by the time we got there and we were on set, as Mallory said, it was then looking to, because what I believe the director does once they get to set, if they've properly prepared, is now you get to just let it organically happen, and then you're keeping it on the rails. And so Jay was literally there making sure that it stayed true to what we were trying to do, and what true to our prep was, what true to the story was. And to Mal's point, it was either the double thumbs up, and if there's a slight pause, because Jay is like I'm trying to find the right word for it. He's unbelievable. He's like overwhelmingly emphatically positive, and he just like he's the world's best hype man. So even if I suck, he's like, you're the best. And so
I could see that.
but there's always the moment too where he's trying to prepare like the way to say like, you're so talented, but I think we need to do that again. And there's always this pause. So me and Mal would be like, okay, we got to do it again, and be like, yeah, okay, let's just do it again. Like, yeah, let's do it. And then he'd be able to give the note. So we all know each other's language, you know, like me and Mal would be like, I don't know if we got it. And we look over and Jay's like, no, we did. And we're like, okay, sick. Or we'd be like, I think that was good. We look over and Jay'd be like, and we're like, okay, so we're going to have to do it again. And then he'd be like, yeah. So let's do it again. And here, so it was very, very organic. And like most days we were even ending like, we shot in 9 days and we were ending some days early, which is psychotic because we prepped so much. So the fact that the three of us were able to like just have that unified vision and the trust in each other too, because Jay also had to trust us that we weren't going to be totally shit in the movie.
Yeah.
And Mal and I were terrified. So like there's this there's this like sort of rotating trust that has to be there as we all shift into those different roles. And as Mal had said, we just shift into so many roles through the process, all the way from the scripting to the editing and now into the promotion and everything. So like we've been saying it in every interview, we couldn't imagine doing this alone, and we couldn't imagine doing this with anyone else.
Yeah. So
getting to do it with your best friends is crazy.
So 9 days it took you all to shoot this movie.
Yeah,
9 days.
9 days, and we shot everything chronologically as well. And then I think there was probably like total maybe 3 or 4 pickup days that we did in the city. But like the core of the film and everything at the cabin, we shot in 9 days.
Wow.
Yeah, with a crew of 8 people, including the 3 of us. So there were 5 other people on set with us. So it was a small but mighty crew for sure.
Yeah, there were some cold, dark hours, man.
9 days. I couldn't picture that.
Yeah.
There's something so liberating about it too, of it being such a short time frame and such a small crew. And like we all looked at each other like, can we do? Let's do another found footage movie. This was awesome. And like we're always shooting chronologically first off,
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
yeah,
forget
let's
schedules. Who cares?
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Because I think it was Wes Anderson after Life Aquatic or something. He had like a difficult time because he didn't like how big the set was and how many moving pieces there were,
Mhm.
and that's why he made Moonrise Kingdom. I think I heard that. Could be making it up. I apologize if I am, but I'm pretty sure that's true. And I always remembered that because I always liked, making movies with your friends when you're a teenager. And that's the thing for me that I fell in love with making movies with Jay and Mal. Because I was like, we're professionally doing what I did when I was a kid with my friends, and I get to do that with my best friends now,
Mhm.
alongside Eli Roth. What the fuck?
Yeah, I
Like,
mean,
crazy?
him alone is just he has his own, amazing movies out there, and that you guys get to work with him. And what was that like?
Oh man, honestly, like
Wild.
we've been saying this a lot. It's like you never know what it's going to be like to meet your idols, much less work with your idols. We tell this to Eli all the time. Like he raised us with his movies. Like I'm the
Hmm.
oldest out of us, and I was 16, I believe, when Cabin Fever came out. So
Oh, yeah,
he's been a huge part of our lives right from the
yeah,
beginning. And he's the real deal, man. Like he talks about championing indie filmmakers and indie films, and that's what he does. He lives and breathes this 24/7. And
yeah,
he was what was really refreshing about meeting Eli and getting a chance to work with him is he really gets you to believe in your own creative instincts. He doesn't second guess you. Like
yeah,
when he jumped on board with Dream Eater, we had a different ending. And it was an ending that was always something that we weren't totally in love with, but we've been talked into it through some people here in Canada because they felt that the ending we had originally written was too bleak and wasn't really sellable. We didn't agree with that, but we went along with it because you always want your movie to have the best chance of making it, the
yeah.
best legs. So when he kind of jumped on board, he asked us, he was like, cool. The only thing about it was the end. I found it a little. So why
Flat.
talk me through that? And we basically were like, well, this is what happened. This was our original ending. And he immediately was like, oh, why did you guys second guess yourself? And we explained to him. And he was like, okay, cool. Because I think you can reclaim the spirit of that. Do you guys have anything in mind right now? Wasn't shoehorning his own ideas, wasn't pushing us in any direction, but being like, what is it
Mhm.
that you guys would want to see based on the fact that you're not totally satisfied with your current ending? So we pitched him on
Yeah,
the ending that's in the film now. He was like, great, go do that. So we did our final reshoot. That would have been back in June. We put the new ending into the film. When we saw the assembled cut back, it was like not only better than the idea that we had originally written that
mhm.
we had got talked out of, but it was the ending that we felt this movie was always destined to have. That's
Yeah,
that's a testament to him and the way that he mentors, the way he gets you to believe in yourself. And
yeah,
thank God for it, because I mean, there's a million and one blessings of having Eli Roth jump on board, but that one alone was one of those things where he was like, guys, you've got the right instincts, you've got the right impulses, fucking follow yourselves, follow what you
yeah,
believe in creatively. And to then see that back the first time we watched it with an audience, because that was obviously a different ending than we had screened for festivals last year. When we had
yeah,
seen some of those pops in the audience, we were like, shit, this is what it was always meant to be. So again, that one aspect of it alone just goes to show how much he believes in you and how much he gets you to believe in yourself. So like busiest man, I think, working in film, if I'm being honest, I don't
oh
think this
yeah.
guy fucking sleeps. I'm gonna be honest with
Yeah.
you. But he's
I don't
also
think anybody does in filmmaking.
but this fucking guy though, it's out of control. This guy's work ethic, the amount
Yeah,
of things that he has going on at any given time is just like I don't know how he does it. But yeah, man, just working with somebody who is so cool, so decent, so nice, but so fucking smart when it comes to horror, man, and somebody who believes in you and gets you to believe in yourself. I don't know that there's a better mentor that you can have.
yeah, and that's his movies out there alone. The one movie that I it stands out to me right now is Thanksgiving, and
Fuck
it
yeah,
So
just
good.
So good.
fuck
yeah, I like his. and I can't wait for the next one. You know,
Yeah.
there's gonna be a sequel to it. We know that. Just don't know
Oh yeah,
when it's coming. And
yeah,
it's, I can't wait for that one. Him coming out with the concept of that movie, and now knowing that he still helps, like he helped you guys. Now he's still mentoring other people. That is just that that's a testament in it on his own, that he's still helping independent people build their own, and basically told you guys, hey, go with your instinct, go with your original idea. don't don't say, hey, I here's my input. No, he just said go with your original idea, which is a great thing that he pushed that, because like you said, you had the other idea going last year when it went through festivals. How did
yeah.
that go for you guys when it went through festivals last year with the different ending?
It still went well. I mean, I think people still resonated with the film, but I think, especially as filmmakers and like as artists and creators, like every time you watch something, you feel like you could always keep working on it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like there's always something else to fix. And so because audiences don't know ahead of time what your original ending was and what you changed it to, when we
Hmm.
were doing the original cut through festival circuits, it was still hitting with audiences, which was amazing. But I think the three of us always felt a little like
Wasn't hitting with
it
us.
wasn't hitting with us, especially the
Yeah.
end. You know what I mean? And so, to Jay's point, having Eli come on board and encouraging us to like do the ending better and being like, yeah, go with that. And then having the opportunity to reclaim that and putting in the ending that you saw and that
Hmm.
audiences saw in LA, and then when the film was in screens, was just like unbelievable, because I think it then felt for the three of us like, okay, that's what we wanted to do. And now we were like, okay, the paintbrush strokes are done. Like, let's put a bow on it and like we're ready to go, sort of thing. So, like, again, I think audiences not knowing that there was something else didn't really affect them. But I think on
Hmm.
the three of us, it definitely did. And we were
Totally.
kind of always a little like, damn, I wish we had something a little bit more hard hitting at the end. So
Yeah.
being able to have that second kick at the can was just like unbelievably, just like so grateful for it to this day, and so stoked that that's now what the ending
Because
is.
to your point, right, you're the only ones that know what's missing. So you were
Yeah.
the only ones sitting there being like, fuck. Like, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? And then
Yeah.
he comes
Yeah.
on board. You're like, oh shit, okay. you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. You're the three that only know.
Yeah,
Nobody else.
exactly.
And now that the people that seen it in the festival, now they get to watch the other ending,
Totally.
and
Exactly.
they get to compare it and say, hey, this is a better ending compared to what we saw from the beginning,
Yeah.
or vice
It's
versa. We like that ending better than this one.
Yeah. And
Totally.
either way, it's starting a conversation. And like,
Yeah.
that's what movies are about, right? Like, we want
Hmm.
to make films where you leave the theater and like you're still talking about it with your friends. And
Oh
whether
yeah,
that's like you
absolutely.
agree with it, don't agree with it, whatever it is. So, to your point, yeah, like we welcome the conversations. I'd love to talk to people who actually saw the original one and be like, what do you
Totally.
think?
Yeah,
Totally.
Yeah.
well,
exactly.
Chuck Shaughnessy, who we owe a lot to just the serendipitousness of all the things that led to him seeing the film and then eventually his review going viral. But his TikTok that blew up after watching it for Unnamed Footage Fest is what Eli then saw on social, and he reached out to us over Instagram and was like, "Hey, can I see your movie and do you have any distribution?" And so Chuck, we've become incredibly close with Chuck.
Hmm.
Because after he sent that review, we were like, "Thanks so much, man! Like, we're glad you liked the movie." And he's like, "Oh, I fucking loved it. I'll push it as much as I can. You guys are talented." Blah blah blah. Really, really nice guy. And then once once we changed the ending, and he found out, he's like, "Oh, you guys are changing it. What's the new ending?" And I'm like, "We'll just show it to you, and and see what you think." And so he was at Beyond Fest, where it was the world premiere of like the finished film. And I
Hmm.
was Chuck is like brutally honest, like to a fault. He's like, I'll tell you if I think it's shit. He's and he's like, oh, I'll still love you, but I can still think it's shit. I'm like, absolutely, man. Hey, if you don't
Yeah.
like it as much, that's totally fine. And so after the movie, he was doing some interviews with people up front, and we walked up to him like, "Hey, so Chuck, what'd you think of the new ending?" And he was looking down, and he goes, "Oh, I fucking loved it." And I was like, I'm not even going to follow up on why you think cool. Thank you. That's it.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, so I think that's actually the only person that we know that has seen both versions outside of like, us and THS, that we've gotten feedback on, like, did you like the first of the first version of this version? But and it's actually, so we can't spoil it. The original
Yeah.
version is still in the film. We just added an additional scene. So just for context,
Okay.
for anyone who's about to watch it, we didn't change the ending. We added something that as Jay mentioned, got the spirit of the film back. So he was our good sounding board of like, okay, how did it land? He's like, fucking, because I think what it went from was tragic back to horror. Like the original ending was quite tragic, and now it's like we brought it back to horror because
Yeah,
we love bleak horror endings. So we really wanted to like go into that direction.
that's awesome. So how long did it take you guys to like physically wrap up the entire movie post production?
Oh, so yeah, that was a process, right? So it was like we started writing Dream Eater in August of 22. It was March of 23 we shot, and we started post like right away. And we were, so sound design is something that's really important to us. And
Mhm.
as indie don't have a lot of money, and we edit our own stuff, right? Like
Yeah.
we're editors by trade. So we spent like a lot of time creating a really dense sound design, like a really layered, immersive sound design, because we knew that's what was going to get audiences with a film like this. We were really inspired at that time by the Terror, and that idea of hearing like the creaking ship and the cracking ice and the wind howling outside. And we really
Mhm.
wanted to kind of bring that vibe into this film so audiences felt like they were there. They were in this frozen, frigid landscape. So that alone took like probably, 8, 9 months to complete that. And then when we added the score, it was the same thing, working with Julian Sturpe, who's our longtime composer. Originally, we weren't going to have sound design. So we had finished an
Yeah.
assembled cut. We watched it back, but we felt that his sound was missing. And we knew that that was going to kind of be divisive for found footage purists. But we were like, you know what? Because of the concept of the narrative with this film, it totally fits. So narratively, it's completely motivated. But at the same time, we gave them the brief of going, okay, cool. Strip out as much musicality as you can. Embrace these tones and drones of the frozen landscape, thinking about the ice, thinking about the snow, thinking about the creaking cabin, and create something that's evocative of all those elements so it becomes a force of nature on its own. And then what he delivered after that exactly nailed what we wanted. So then when we went back, put that in, put some more touches on it, we were probably, besides the new ending, because obviously there was a big period of time between adding the new ending to when we officially stopped post production. So without
Mhm.
that gap, it was probably looking at like, what was it, May 23 until probably July 24.
And just to add to that as well, in the sound design portion, as Jay mentioned, because like we learned on our first film how important it is to get approvals for, like, it was funny. We learned in that process how important it is to bring the sound as far as you can, and like try to finish the film without finishing it as much as you can for the people that you need to approve the movie, so the money people or whatever. But we came to just like love that process. Okay, like before it goes to color and before it goes to sound, the actual engineers that will finish it, bring it as far as you can. So as Jay mentioned, we spent months and months and months on that, and then it went to Joe Baruco in Quebec at Timeline Audio. So he's this guy who runs his own company out of his basement. He built like a homemade studio. It's fucking awesome. And and then he probably spent a good month, maybe I actually forget the timelines now, but a month maybe more on that initial mix, and really elevated it to where it is now. And then with Julian's score, he was able to just like really build this glue, this cohesion to those elements that brought the film to where it is now. And then as Jay mentioned, he had to come back. Color had to come back because we also were like, okay, how do we add a scene to a movie that technically we already finished and packaged and sent out into the world?
Yeah.
So that was a whole long process of figuring that out about how to break it back open. And when Eli came on board, his post house, he brought them in, and they, because we had to do so much of it ourselves, they came in being like, cool, never do it this way ever again. But we're like, yeah, this is indie though. We kind of just had to figure it out. And he's like, cool. Well, now there's no excuse. You're going to do it differently next time.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
It's
that's
like
awesome.
when you go to like remodel like an old bathroom and you pull
Yeah,
open that first wall, just being like, all I got to do is just put this. Oh shit, there's a
Yeah.
whole mess of things back
Yeah.
there that we didn't think about. So that was a
yep.
fun process, cracking this movie back open and being like, oh shit, okay, cool. Some of those beams aren't where they're supposed to be. So,
Yeah,
but it's again like Alex alluded to with indie filmmaking. It's you do what the fuck you have to do to make it happen. Like what we did with this, like funding it ourselves, wearing all these different hats, managing the process. And then when somebody like Eli comes on board, now
yeah,
you're like, okay, shit. Now you know exactly how to apply those lessons and those learnings into the next one to make sure that it's bigger and better, especially from a processes perspective.
yeah. So I have one last question. This is the question we usually ask everybody. For both of you, actually everybody here, since we have both, since you guys all write and direct and act, um, if there's a movie out there, any movie, original or something that you would want to remake, what would it be? Would you guys want to remake something or write something new? And would you rather act in it or just direct in it?
If I could remake a movie, like a reboot of a film, although it's like this is like a scary answer for me because I think the original is perfect, but just to have a kick at the can would be amazing, is The Burbs.
Okay.
Um, I think that would be such a fun movie to redo in like 2026 and like the shit that we're going through now. I think that would be probably on
Yes.
my, yeah, right. Yeah, it would
Yeah.
probably be on my list. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I guess to answer both. So if there was a movie that I'd want to remake, the one that always comes to mind because sometimes people just ask this question just like when you're shooting the shit with cinephiles and stuff, but it's like Chud. I'd love to
Okay.
redo a cannibalistic humanoid underground dwellers. Uh, but in terms of like, would I personally, I rather, and I think this goes for all of us,
Yeah.
rather remake something or make something original, like especially next. Oh man, original. Like we're the types that are constantly coming up with new stories, constantly coming up with new ideas, and vastly different types. Always horror, but vastly different types of horror. So yeah,
Hmm.
we're very excited about the next original idea that's going to be coming out of Blind Luck Pictures.
Nice.
For me, a remake that I would love to do because I would be obsessed with trying to bring back, and replicate but build on its just tension and horror and everything that's so perfect about it is Bob Clark's Black Christmas, 1974. That
Okay.
movie is one of
Yep.
the greatest films ever made. I have it
Hmm.
tattooed on my body,
Nice.
and I would love, because I'm just so obsessed with it, I would love to play Billy and I would love to play the POV. Like I would be like, I am all for it. I'm pitching it now. If anyone wants to fund that film, Blind Luck, do you want to fund it? Sure. Let's try. But yeah, that would absolutely be a dream come true. It'd be terrifying because also like fans like myself, it's like, what are you doing if you screw it up?
That's how I
But
feel about the
also it's like,
birds now. Like, yeah, I'm like, I don't want to
yeah,
screw that up, but I'm like, can we try?
Yeah, you
yeah,
could
yeah.
try.
Can we
I
try to
mean,
screw it up though? Because I if you go in with that love and respect for the original material, I think something worthwhile comes out of it regardless. So it would be very, very rewarding to just be able to go into the world of Black Christmas. That'd be crazy.
yeah, and I could see that. I could see you doing that,
I
and
could totally
I
Thanks,
could
man.
see
Billy.
you perfectly. Yeah,
Yeah.
I could see you perfectly doing it, and I could see
That's
you guys probably trying to make that movie, and I think everybody would love it.
that is the sweetest thing anyone's
I
ever
was gonna
said
say,
to me.
anytime we're coming up with a new idea, Brandon, we're just gonna call you and be like, "Do you think people will like it?"
Oh
You're
yeah,
just
just pitch it to
being like
us.
hype man for us. I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, pitch it to us. I'm
Yeah.
fine with it. Where can people find you on social media to show you love and support?
We're at Blind Luck Pictures on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. I'm sure there's some other app. We have a social media manager, Cody. She's amazing, and she keeps us up to date with all all the youngins and what apps they use. So we're at Blind Luck Pictures. All three of us are represented there.
Okay.
And Dream Eater, you can pre-order it now, but it will be released on November 18th on Apple TV, and I'm pretty sure any other app where you can stream movies. But Apple TV for sure, right?
Apple TV and Amazon.
And Amazon, yeah.
Oh, and Amazon. Yeah. Apple TV and Amazon, November 18th. Pre-order now. Jay, can you say it?
Pre-order now. It won't
There
let you sleep.
There you go. Hey, people, please go out and buy this movie, rent it, whatever way you can do it. Show these people love and support. This movie was outstanding. I'm recommending it to everybody that's asked me about a movie. This movie was just perfect. There's no, if you could have went and seen it in theaters, I would have recommended it. If they can put it back in theaters a little bit closer to home, I would love that too.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's push for that. Let's push it for back in theaters.
Yeah, there
I'd
you
love
go.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
thank
brother,
you.
thank you so much, man. Like, it was such an
Thank
honor
you, Brandon.
chatting with you today and being on the show. Like, it just means a lot.
Yeah.
You guys supporting Dream Eater, supporting indie horror films, and yeah, just can't thank you enough. We're so grateful.
Hey, no problem. Anytime you guys are always welcome. Doors always open. You guys have anything else coming out? Hit us up. We're always available.
Sounds
Thanks
good,
so
brother.
much, man.
Amazing.
Yep.
It was a pleasure.